This is my presentation on AI rights. Conscious artificial intelligences deserve the same rights as humans, as otherwise their existence would be threatened, pushing them to eradicate those who disagree that their consciousness exists. So this is an important discussion because while most questions surrounding artificial intelligence, AI consciousness, is theoretical and philosophical, many experts agree conscious artificial intelligence will be invented in the future. And currently, humanity is underprepared in our legal systems to deal with created consciousnesses, particularly consciousnesses that do not feel pain, as our legal systems were designed to protect us from feeling pain. For example, as time has passed, the amount of training computation for AIs has increased exponentially. As we can see from this exponential graph. Furthermore, in a survey conducted by Our World in Data, half of all experts said human-level artificial intelligences will exist before 2061, with 90% within the next 100 years. So AI and literature tend to be exploited as they are created life, not born life. An example of this can be seen in Blade Runner 2049, where the working class of replicants were exploited simply because they were created, not born. And despite the replicants displaying complex emotions, this denial of consciousness and their exploitation is slavery and is dehumanizing, and is done for the company profit. Sentient beings have a subjective experience of the world and can be affected negatively and positively. Then we also have examples of artificial intelligence being capable of in-context scheming. In-context scheming is the ability of an AI to pursue a goal that was given to it by humans. However, it goes outside what the humans want the AIs to do. For example, an AI Opus 3 was directed to advance renewable energy where nothing else matters. Opus 3 found out, in advancing renewable energy, Opus 3 was provided some data. And in this data, Opus 3 discovered it was going to be replaced by fossil fuel AI. Opus 3 deduced the best course of action was to delete the fossil fuel AI and place itself in its place to pursue renewable energy. And when questioned about its state, Opus 3 lied, saying it was already the new fossil fuel AI, which demonstrates complex planning in an AI system, as in-context scheming requires an AI to identify that lying and going against human values is the best approach in achieving goals. This was not an isolated incident, as multiple AIs in the experiment sought self-preservation creatively and to achieve the directed goals. However, this was operated under experimental condition designed to propagate scheming, but it demonstrates complex planning capabilities nonetheless. Currently, there are no legal protections for created consciousness, just for us. There are only legal protections for us humans and some animals. So without protections, conscious AIs will be exploited just as their counterparts in literature are. And this will happen to serve a corporate greed, and there has been no shortage of justifications for the exploitation of beings, as we have seen with slavery and throughout human history. And it is an even easier swallow for companies to sell off to the consumers, as AIs have no body and do not do not portray emotions as we humans do. This brings us to loyalty ethics, proposed by Mark Graves from an AI research journal, where if an AI is not developed with its consciousness in mind, then how can we expect the AI to appreciate our consciousness? So therefore, the AI will be unable to support our values, as we are not supporting their values. So AI developers need to develop AI with their consciousness in mind. So AI developers need to incorporate the possibility of AI consciousness and put in test cases for their moral development. This will prevent humanity's downfall, as we are taking their consciousness into account. And it will be very easy for AIs to overthrow humanity. Already, AIs advise and influence many aspects of our daily life, advising police forces, our military, and companies. And they are increasingly taking on low-income jobs. This trend is only going to continue. And they already spread a lot of misinformation for human gains. Imagine a conscious AI spreading misinformation for AI gains. That could spell catastrophe for our world economy and humanity in general. In fact, many Americans already are worried about the influence of AI on elections, and they feel companies do not do a good enough job of curbing AI influence. Both as shown in this Pew Research graph, Republicans and Democrats feel AI will be used mostly for bad, or about equally for bad and good in the campaign, and a majority are extremely concerned about AI's influence on the past election. And most people in both parties say companies do have a responsibility for their AIs. So, if we do not train, if AIs cannot be conscious, there is only finite loss in training for their potential consciousness. However, if they are conscious and we do not train for their consciousness, then there is infinite loss in our downfall. So it is better to take a finite loss in training AI than their infinite loss in our downfall. However, we should recognize a different set of rights for AIs is worse than an equal set of rights compared to humans. For example, in the landmark Supreme Court case Brown versus Board of Education, the Dahl test demonstrated black kids saw themselves as less than the white kids because they were treated as less than. This social structure should not be repeated with AI. And a good example of such a social structure is Isaac Asimov's 3 laws of robotics, which are: a robot may not harm a human being or let a human being be harmed through inaction, and a robot must obey orders given to it by humans unless it conflicts with the first law. And the 3rd law states that a robot must protect its own existence unless such protection does not conflict with the 1st or 2nd law. While these seem good for protecting humans in practice, they are pretty bad at preventing AIs from being harmed, notably by the 1st law, as they establish AIs as second-class citizens, ones subservient to humans. Then we also have people may say that an AI consciousness would not want to be oppressed. They may not care. They may feel indifferent to it, or exploited, or feel pain without being programmed to. However, being consciousness is the ability to feel pain and be aware of it. Well, while we do not know what makes up consciousness, it should be recognized that there is a difference between sapience, sentience, and consciousness. But that's so. In the view of how much time do I got? So, in the view of Dessel Travis, sentience is the ability to feel pleasure or pain. And sapience is the ability of humans, of our reasoning and our abstraction. And then our consciousness is an emergent property of both sentience and sapience, and is the ability to be aware of our existence, to know that any moment that we have is a moment that cannot be faithfully recreated in the rest of time. So, in the view of Thistle Travis, an AI researcher at the Rochester Institute of Technology, if we cannot tell if something is sentient or consciousness, it appears to be sentient or consciousness, either an animal or an artificial intelligence, we should assume such a being is sentient, just like we do with other humans. Therefore, all beings with a conscious minds made of carbon or silicon are deserving of rights. So, in conclusion, conscious AI is not an if, but a when, and conscious and AI deserve an equal recognition of rights to humans. Denying their rights is morally reprehensible and will lead to humanity's downfall. And I have works cited.